Okay, well, hi everyone. So yeah, we're obviously going to talk about sustainability and kind of corporate responsibility and how we can create a more sustainable future based on collaboration, based on partnership, and based on collective action. So it's really interesting to have you both here. So I guess just to kick off, if you could maybe just introduce yourselves so we can see who you are.
Sure, I can get going. I hope you just give me a signal if you can't hear me. I'm Michael. I'm founder and CEO of Jammer, which is a startup that's about 6 years old. We're working on stopping food waste in people's homes. So a third of all food being wasted across the food chain is happening in the home. So we look at our kitchen and we do something about that. And we create experiences that are not published by us directly, but published by corporates who already have an audience and can talk about how to stop food waste in the home. And that's what we do.
Interesting, great, thank you. And Ludwikas.
I'm Liudvikas. I'm based in Lithuania, in Vilnius, working local food retailer, Rimi. If you're local living in Baltic states, you should know what is it. And my main job is to ensure corporate responsibility is in place, not in desktop, but actually in real actions. So Michael said he's fighting food waste. We are selling food, and of course we are creating food waste. So we are kind of bad guys in some sense, but actually already doing a lot of things and activities how to reduce it. Definitely we don't want to lose it. Definitely we don't want to waste it, but unfortunately it is as it is sometimes. So shortly about that.
Cool, great. So yeah, I think the stat is that 20% of all food in the EU system is wasted along the supply chain. So why? You guys are both working in the food industry in some respect. Why are we wasting so much food?
I can take a stab at that. Yeah. So when I look at the data, it's quite interesting. Yes, 20% of all food being created is being wasted.
Yeah, it's incredible.
In our part of the world. We think we've come a long way with an industry that's very efficient, have a lot of supply chains that are great. But if you look at other countries that don't have such a supply chain, like India,
yeah.
20% of their food is also being wasted. It's the same number. So why is it the same? Well, what we managed to do is create very efficient supply chains all the way up until it ends at our home. Okay. And then all the food waste has been pushed out there. So the problem is suddenly not smaller, but it's just been pushed out to people's homes.
Okay.
So the food waste that in India is happening at farm level or in supply chain, we just pushed into people's fridges instead.
Okay.
So that's where the big challenge lies now.
Okay.
More to add, yeah, I can very clearly answer why we're having food waste. Plenty of reasons, and of course we are not perfect. I wouldn't say that there is a retailer who would be perfect and would have zero food waste. Simply, there are such a big and complex supply chain of food. For example, me, you, everyone, we need always to have everything in the store. We need oranges, we need beef from Argentina, we need milk from Ireland, from specific cows, etc., etc. So we need all to deliver. And just imagine what it is to deliver an orange, for example, from Spain, or let's say bananas from Colombia. It's half of Earth traveling, so definitely there will happen something. Something is not okay, maybe some quality issues, some rotten or molded stuff, and again, if something we need to act immediately, we need to remove that stock, we need to utilize it, or find other ways to do. Of course, there are lots of things inside the organization. For example, what we order.
Yeah.
Dream, would be to have on stock just as much as actually people would buy. But that's a dream.
Hard to plan.
Dream. That's not possible. Weather is changing, your mood is changing, you slept well, and suddenly you will buy differently. And times population, and you'll have huge deviations.
Sure.
Yeah. For example, COVID. Yeah, we used to pre-COVID time, our systems are ordering based on history. So what you buy, what you sell last year should be something similar next year.
Sure.
And now, and suddenly COVID came, and everything is ruined. Absolutely, system doesn't know a thing. It is ordering completely nonsense. People are not buying. People maybe are buying something different, and then actually we need to step in. Humans need to step in.
So stepping in, one of the programs at the minute is obviously this collaboration between Jammer and Rimi. So I'm wondering if you can maybe just explain the collaboration a little bit and the project that you guys are working on.
Right. So it all started at one day that we thought, okay, we did a lot internally, why not to go externally and work with some startups? That was our first pancake, and it was cooked well, actually.
Sure.
We already developed with Michael and Plan Jammer a solution which is available in our Rimi websites. So why we stepped in? As I said, we wanted something new, some new experience to try on, and we were looking for some cool innovations. Because in corporate, yeah, we have resources, we have people, smart, and so on, but we can't handle everything. We can't develop solutions from A to zero in each type of industry. It's not possible. Everyone is outsourcing something, yeah? So that was one part, and startups are good at that, yeah? Innovations. They are good at that. We are focusing on issue, focusing on idea, spending all resources, not sleeping overnight probably, just to fix and deliver.
So would you say that it's the fact that startups are maybe more agile and faster moving that helps them be so useful for corporates in making sustainable choices?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. No matter how we would think corporate is agile, we are not agile as much as startup, definitely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And in turn, what we lack as a startup is distribution. So what we have ourselves, we have an app that gives an experience. We have around 150,000 active users. It's not going badly, but we also realized we have a vision that we want to change the way that people eat to the scale of 1 billion people. Then we cannot do it alone, and we need to think through who has a reach, who touches people we don't normally touch. That's outside of our echo chamber, and that's why working with corporates who have their own audiences, inspiring their audiences to live more sustainably, makes a lot of sense. So for us, what we really get with Rimi is a great partner that teaches us how is it to work with big guys, what are the strengths and what are the challenges, and I can talk at length about both. But more importantly, we get this distribution channel to get to impact more people. And that's really what we're here about.
Perfect. So would you say then that this collaborative approach to fueling transitions and big changes is really the cornerstone and the way forward for the future? More corporates and more startups should be taking this model?
Absolutely. I think what's really important as a startup, and we've been a startup for 6 years and we're going to be a startup for another 20 years.
Sure.
What's really important as a startup is to learn. You're not going to right away create that sort of overnight success without you really understanding the problem and building the great product. And the way you get that is feedback and these feedback loops. And what you do if you have a partner is not only do you get feedback from the end user, which we are making sure to do with data-driven approaches, but you're also getting feedback and getting bangs in the head on a daily basis from your corporate partner, which makes you better.
Sure.
So it's a really good way to get your hand on the stove and learn double as much in the same amount of time. So for a startup, it just creates better products and more impact.
More impact. Yeah, it's interesting as well. I guess obviously for a startup, you get this massive distribution network. You get a chance to learn. From a corporate perspective, corporates obviously have a massive resource pool in comparison to a startup. Why does a corporate need to use a startup then to launch these processes?
As I said, we can't build everything ourselves. No matter, let's take Volkswagen, yeah? Huge brand, billion company, but we use still Michelin tires, we still use Brembo brakes, Bosch equipment and so on. Why we are not doing everything themselves? Because financially it's not always a good thing to invest, do research, do development, build huge factories, own lots of crazy amount of people and so on. It's better to buy outsource. So the same with us, and it also gives us as a corporate flexibility, because let's not be naive, not every collaboration is actually successful, it could also fail. So to stop service, to stop business contract is much easier than to fire people or close the department or, I don't know, destroy simply the factory. Sure. So it gives flexibility, it gives also agility at the same time, and also considering the same investments, you can actually probably work with 5 startups at the same time rather than invest in something yourself.
Sure.
I think importantly, innovation is hard. There's this amazing YouTube sort of interview of Steve Jobs called The Lost Tapes, where he talks a little bit about why does he think innovation is hard for big guys. And his reflection, this is just after he was ousted from Apple, is that there's a certain point where the big company learns what is their bread and butter. And then once they learn that, they funnel their resources into marketing and sales. They get to become 2 to 3% better every year, and that's really good.
Yeah.
But when you focus on being 2 and 3% better every year, you build processes for that. And then you're not going to do innovation that's changing the game. That's just not what you built for anymore. And that's where you need another perspective who takes a bit more risk, who probably has a 90% chance of failing, and that's okay. And that is sometimes easier to do if you're a startup where you're okay with failing because that's the whole model.
Yeah, it's part of it, the process.
So it could be easier to do that innovation that's extremely hard to do within a big corporate that's used to focusing on getting 2% better every year.
Interesting, great. And so, as well, I'm thinking about this next generation. So the next generation is kind of seen to be more sustainability focused, but at the same time, kind of gets a bad reputation for being quite wasteful. And obviously, this partnership that you guys have is using AI, is using this tech-based to reduce food waste. Do you see that as really important for this new generation, that they're more susceptible to using tech to reduce food waste than maybe a prior generation?
Absolutely. We've been doing a lot of, I talk to at least 5 users a week, and we've been doing a lot of kitchen tests as well. And it's extremely clear to us that in terms of, technical sort of curiosity, you have this new generation that wants to do that. So whenever we do a kitchen test, it's all the way down to the 12, 13, 14-year-olds who love this product, where you're actually playing around to find your recipe, picking your ingredients, learning what is umami, clicking some things around. Being more open in your mindset.
Sure.
So if you're going to change behavior, it's really hard to change behavior in something you do every day for 40 years in a row, and then suddenly have to change behavior. You're very far down that ski slope, right? Whereas the 12, 13, 16, 24-year-olds, they don't have those habits yet, and that's where you can really change the habits. So they want to try new products digitally, and they also want to try new things in the kitchen. So it's a really good place to start. And what we learn is, if you focus on that audience, let's say the 16 to 25-year-olds, they have parents, and they influence their parents about how they cook, and they actually have a really strong influence on what's going to be put on the kitchen table, even when they don't cook. So it's a really, really strong thing to focus on that audience that's actually an influencer within the family.
Great. What do you find?
I can just add on Michael, maybe a few other examples. In the stores we have, for example, self-checkout zones. So what I noticed recently, that actually there are already queues in self-checkout zones and zero people in regular cashiers. Why? Because new generation, for example, myself, I would also choose self-checkout rather than regular, because sometimes I don't want to interact with people anymore. I'm tired after all days of meeting, of discussion, etc., and to say hi, to simply I want to touch a screen, keep silent, and that's it. And this is the reality, and we are meeting that, and we are accepting that. That's how it is, and those tools, like, for example, empty your fridge, what PlanJammer actually developed, you don't need to scroll much in the internet, you don't need to ask your grandmother how to cook this and that, you just click what you have in the tool, it will generate you a recipe, and that's it.
Simple.
Such an easy, and you don't need to talk with people,
Perfect. Yeah.
We actually asked our audiences what's the most painful part of cooking, because we needed to understand the process of how do you change behavior in cooking by understanding how people actually cook. So what's the most painful part? Is it shopping? Is it cooking? Is it planning what to cook? Is it doing the dishes, right? And interestingly, among the 3 Baltic countries, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, what would you expect to be the most? Who would find it most painful to do the dishes? Apparently, it's the Lithuanians.
Oh wow!
But you learn these things to get a sense of where do you then address the problem. And what we learned there is basically, by far, by a factor 2x, the most painful part of that whole process is not the shopping, it's not the cleaning, it's not even the cooking, it's the planning what to cook. It's that feeling of, what am I gonna make tonight? So that's where you gotta sort of make it easier and make it more fun. And that's why we're addressing that particular aspect.
Yeah, it's that coming home from work after a long day and you're tired and you open your fridge and you just have no idea what to cook. And sometimes then people then just go out back to the supermarket and buy something else because they have no inspiration.
We stick to the usual 5, perhaps 10 recipes. 80% of people, they cook less than 10 recipes a year. Right?
Wow.
We just keep on going on the same sort of drill. And the problem with that is then if you have carrots in the bottom of the fridge and you only know one dish with carrots and you don't feel like that dish, you're going to waste the carrots.
You're going to get a bit
So you need more diversity and you need a tool to make it possible to feel inspired without feeling tired.
Interesting. Great. And so far, what are the outcomes that you've seen from this partnership? How successful has it been? How do you see it progressing in the future?
So we started in last year in July, and in 6 months we with the help of PlanJammer, we polished as much as we can with widget itself, the tool, and we simply learned to understand what actually the tool gives us, what statistics, what insights, etc. So it took about, I would say, 6 months. During that time, we also noticed that, let's say, we are not very satisfied with the traffic, but the product itself, the idea has very good potential. Why? Because very good feedback from the users, and actually the people is spending a lot of time in it. That means his opening is not just open and close, but he's probably scrolling here, looking for something, which is good. So after 6 months, we decided, okay, now we'll focus on traffic. And this is what we are currently doing. And another thing what is very beneficial is actually we are getting lots of nice statistics, what we hadn't before. For example, in December, we know what actually people loves to cook and from what ingredients, so we can actually use it in our sales in the store, like in a classical way. We know when actually all the steaks and so on starts actually being interested for people. It's somewhere probably in the April. Yeah, and also we found out some nice trends. I never thought that Baltic people are so much interested in vegan food. That was a surprise because, and to speak about sustainability, we're quite a few years behind the Western countries, like Scandinavia or Germany. But in vegan perspective, we are the leaders. We are having, you can probably the numbers, Michael, but many more percents than Netherlands, Sweden, the same, or Denmark. Wow, so that's another input and that's another proof point that we should focus also in the store to develop even more vegan products, vegetarian products, and whatnot.
And that's really key because what we try to do at the highest level for us is impacting the way that people eat. So we eat more sustainably, more plant-based, less food waste, basically. But the way we do that is to have a distribution channel here. But we can only have that if it has value to the corporate, right? And the core value that we provide is data.
Sure.
That means not individual data, but it means at an overarching level, what does your customers look like? What are the dishes they like? What are the ingredients they take out and take in? Because we have a whole neural network that allows the user to substitute every ingredient for something else, allows them to add spices and get suggestions, and they pick one. And that means a lot of micro choices. And all those micro choices tells you something about you.
Yeah.
We all know when we stand in the supermarket, we are sort of looking at the guy next to us. What does he have in the shopping basket? And we sort of judge him based on that, right?
Yeah.
And the same kind of judgment that we can do here. What does a Rimi user look like? And what do they like? What don't they like? And with that, you can build a better company and understand people better. And we let very granular information about what are the spices people don't like, what are the vegetables that they shy away from, how many people hate cilantro and feel like it tastes like soap. Those kind of information are important when you think about campaigns, when you think about new products to put online.
Interesting. This has been really interesting discussion, and I know that a few people have some questions, so maybe we can all catch up just after the talk and go through those further. So just as a final note, what do you see in the future for reducing food waste? Is collaborations like this the way forward, or what else can we do?
I would say like that. There is no one cure to treat food waste. There will be hundreds of different ways. And such innovation like PlanJammer is one of it. But it doesn't solve everything. So we need definitely many more ideas.
Sure.
There are hundreds of still persisting problems. So if you are a startup, just scroll the food waste topic and solve it in one and another way.
Sure.
It's a huge potential.
So you're ready and waiting.
Food is the biggest industry in the world, and it's the only industry in the world at that scale that has a waste of 20%. Right? 20% of it is not being used. It's insane. So that's a great opportunity, and because it's a problem we have to solve if we're going to be serious about climate change. So of course we need corporations. Of course we need individual people who just go all the way themselves as well. There's no silver bullet. We're going to need to use all the ammunition we have to solve this problem, because it's a huge one and it's a great opportunity to solve it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Perfect. Well, that was really interesting. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.